All things must come to an end, and as we pay homage to the African warriors who once graced the UFC octagon but now find themselves in a different chapter of their career, these fighters, once synonymous with the intensity and excitement of the UFC, have left an indelible mark in one way or the other. Though their paths may have diverged from the UFC, their impact on the sport remains undeniable. Join us as we reflect on their memorable moments and acknowledge their contributions in their continued MMA careers. My name is Toby with the African Fighters, and here are the top African fighters released by the UFC in 2023.
Come on, Africans!
Number 1.
The Moroccan Devil, Yousef Zalal!
Navigating the tough waters of the UFC, Yousef Zalal showcased his skills, winning the first 3 fights. Things, however, took a drastic negative turn as the Moroccan went on to lose his next 3 fights. The Moroccan Devil was handed his walking papers after his last fight ended in a majority draw against Damon Blackshear. Since his release from the UFC, Zalal is undefeated in Sparta Combat League, and a return to the UFC might still be on the cards. Number 2.
And the Cape Town, South Africa, Dalcha champion, Lungiambula!
Lungiambula debuted in the promotion as a light heavyweight before falling to future title contender Magomed Ankalaev. He then dropped down to middleweight, where he picked up a win over Marcus Perez, but that was ultimately the only victory he would earn in the UFC. Lungiambula fell to Marc-Andre Barriault, Cody Brundage, and Punhel Soriano in consecutive fights before the knockout loss to Shabazian that marked his final bout on the deal, as the UFC opted not to re-sign him to a new contract. Number 3. Zarah came into the UFC with a 6-2 record, having previously competed in Cage Warriors and Ladies Fight Night. The French-Moroccan, however, failed to win a single fight in the UFC as the bright lights seemed a little too bright for Zarah. She lost all 4 fights and was cut from the promotion late in 2023. Number 4. Popularly known by the name Blood Diamond, the man from Zimbabwe came into the league with a lot of question marks surrounding his name. Then teammate of CKB middleweight champion Israel Adesanya, Blood Diamond lost all 3 fights in the UFC, losing to Jeremiah Wells, Orion Kosuke, before dropping a unanimous decision against Charles Radke at UFC 293, after which he was cut from the promotion.
In this journey, like, it's either you're winning or you're learning. This is just the way I see it. Hey, you're already calling me diamond, so I don't think you need any. The diamond's already been made. Okay, it's just my time to shine now. So yeah.
Number 5. Tafon. Tafon started his UFC tenure as a strong prospect of Dana White's Contender Series. The highly hyped prospect got off to a good start with a win over Jamie Pickett. He, however, went on to lose 4 of his next 5 fights, alternating between the light heavyweight and middleweight. He, however, failed to meet the weight set for his final match in the UFC and still lost convincingly. The Cameroonian is yet to feature in an MMA match since his exit from the UFC.
I mean, I learned a lot from that fight. I mean, I'm going to implement a lot of stuff that I saw from the fight into my game plan, and I'm not expecting him to be the same person when he fought that person, when he fought him, but I'm going to be ready for that person and whoever else or whatever else he has learned throughout that times.
Number 6.
JP Young Savage Bates.
JP entered the UFC following a controversial submission win in his second Dana White Contender Series opportunity in 2020. The victory remains his most recent to date, as Bates was defeated by Bruno Silva, Montel Jackson, Cody Durden, and Marcus McGee prior to his departure. The young Savage had a tumultuous time in the UFC with scandals and accusations from his then wife, UFC strawweight contender Cheyenne Vismas. loss, leading to a year of inactivity. In the end, the noise and distractions prevented Bice from performing at his best. Egypt's Mounir Lazez burst into the national spotlight when he won his promotional debut as a relatively unknown fighter against Abdul Razak Al Hassan. News surfaced that his signing was a result of UFC President Dana White being convinced in a bar that he should give him a shot. Lazez went 1-2 in his next 3 fights, where he last competed at UFC 283 in January when he was submitted by Gabriel Bonfim. News came out that he had fought out his contract and UFC opted not to resign or renew his contract. Number 8.
Fighting out of Paris, France, Cedric, the best Doumbe!
Doumbe, multi-time Glory kickboxing champion, signed a deal to compete at the UFC's first ever event in Paris in September of 2022. But the bout never came to fruition, and Doumbe ultimately didn't get his chance to fight inside the octagon before being released by the UFC. A doctor made a mistake in his MRI test, confirming that he had blood in his brain, despite letting UFC representatives know that he was cleared to compete by 3 different doctors. The promotion ultimately parted ways with Doumbe. Additionally, there is a rule within the Paris Commission that states that a pro fighter with less than 10 fights can only share the cage with a competitor with near equal MMA experience, which also led to the bout being cancelled. Last but definitely not the least,
fighting out of Paris, France, by way of Botany, Cameroon, Francis, the Predator, Ngannou.
one of the biggest sagas in the UFC history was the departure of Francis Ngannou. After a painfully long back and forth of negotiations, Francis Ngannou opted not to resign with the UFC as his demands were not being met, amassing a UFC record of 12-2, the most formidable heavyweight in MMA, and then UFC heavyweight champion, had proven to the world that he was one of the very best, hence a lot of suitors were lined up in front of him. The war of words between UFC President Dana White and Francis Ngannou continued even after his departure. White on multiple occasions accused Ngannou of wanting to face lesser opponents for more money and stated that Ngannou could do that outside of the UFC. Ngannou always speaks up for himself, has always disputed his claims, stating in several interviews that his reservations were beyond money and involved freedom to box as well as issues surrounding fighter treatment. Ngannou has however gone on to do great things, debuting in a massive boxing fight against Fury and then set to take on Anthony Joshua in a couple of months. Alright guys, that's all on our list. Please comment in the comment section if you think we left anyone out. We'll also like to wish all the fighters on this list the very best in their careers as they go on to do great things. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave your comments in the comment section. I will see you in another video. Bye for now.
Come on, Africans!